Hi everyone, Dick Cheney is Evil here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Marissa Nadler album, For My Crimes. This is the 8th full-length album from singer-songwriter Marissa Nadler. I've been aware of her work for a while, but it's only been until recently that she has turned me into a believer in her very wintry approach to contemporary folk music. I like her haunting and gentle voice. I like the refreshingly dark and luscious direction her music has gone in since switching over to Sacred Bones Records. Her last full-length album was easily her most instrumentally dense record in a while and one of my favorites in her discography. And with her latest record for Sacred Bones, Marissa Nadler continues on this dark path with a pretty atmospheric and spacey sound bordering on Gothic a few times, but she takes a much different approach in instrumentation and writing on this new LP. For one, this is Nadler's shortest album in a while at 34 minutes. And while July and Strangers saw her embracing more instrumental layers, For My Crimes sees her stripping them back. Some songs on this thing don't really feature much more than a gently strummed guitar and some chilling background vocals and Marissa Nadler's typical lead. Maybe there are a few ethereal tones hanging here and there throughout the track for a bit of embellishment, but that's it. Sometimes this record feels downright skeletal, and I think she's taking a simpler approach on the lyrical front of this album too, as some of the stories she tells on this album are surprisingly blunt. The closing track is a cute and funny goodbye to a car that she used to drive, explaining at one point that it took a bullet in the roof in New Haven, which is why they call it Gun Wavin' New Haven. And she's singing about removing her things from the car, taking the plates off, the blown engine, over some throbbing strings and some plucky guitar lines and a really catchy hook. 119657 in the engine blue. The opener and title track on this thing sees Nadler singing from the standpoint of somebody who seems like they are about to be executed for some horrendous crime they committed. At one point of the song, Marissa telling the listener, please don't remember me. It's quite sad, it's pretty dark, and some serious gothic country vibes also coming off this track too. While the track is not that long and there's not a whole lot of instrumental depth to it, I do have to say that I think the story and the tale, the concept, the narrative of the song, it does have a lot of impact. It does feel really strong. It is haunting. Other tracks on this record feel like Nadler is almost writing hits, but with kind of a nostalgic flair. Songs that sound like they could be placed in like an old school jukebox, but only if that jukebox were the saddest, loneliest, most depressed jukebox in the world. Songs like, I can't listen to Gene Clark anymore, or Lover Release Me, or All Out of Catastrophes, which features some of my favorite lyrics on the entire record, which are pretty humorous. Marissa's not really known for her sense of humor in her music. She rarely trots it out, but I'm glad she did on this track because it worked pretty well. Saying at one point in the song that in his sleep her lover called her by another name and saying that that was the nicest thing he had ever said to her. There's something almost Johnny Cash-ish about the track that I like a lot. Considering that, I should say that I think a lot of songs on this record could actually go down pretty well with country fans if only they were laid out with peppier instrumentation. But I don't know, if you're a country fan but you don't mind some mellow music, you don't mind some music with an easygoing instrumental palette, I think you'll dig on this. Because personally, I don't really think these songs are any less enjoyable in their current state. Because in their current form, they're delivered almost as if they are like a sad little secret or something. Nadler's instrumentation does get kind of thick though on the track Blue Vapor, with some droning electric guitars and strings. It's a slow burner but moves at a steady pace. The guitars certainly propel the track. Nadler's dark vocal harmonies create a sense of urgency. If I'm reading into it correctly, the track seems to be about Nadler lusting after somebody in her head who she just can't get out of there. But the relationship she had with this person is pretty much over at this point, and she's pretty much coming to terms with that. I think it's one of her strongest songs in a while, despite the incredible instrumental simplicity. I also like the heavy drums and strings that come in toward the ending. Then there's the incredible bliss of the track Dream Dream Big in the Sky. Also digging on the quaint but sad folk number You're Only Harmless When You Sleep. Another moment on the album where she seems to be singing about a dysfunctional love, where two partners seem to be at total polar opposites and there's some kind of irreparable damage to this relationship that they just can't seem to get past. And while I'm not as enamored with the tune, the lyrics on the track Flamethrower seem to go down this road as well, but hit even harder. Literally singing about this person faking his death and wanting him to burn, 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 burn. So while there are a lot of upsides to the simpler approach Nadler takes on this album, there are some cons to it too. The album overall is pretty scant. While I do find a lot of the tracks on this thing to be endearing, simultaneously I wonder if their impact could have been made greater if they were longer or had larger instrumentation on them. And again, speaking to the length of this album and these tracks, I think there are some cuts on here that have somewhat fizzled endings, like All Out of Catastrophes and Lover Release Me, which is unfortunate because I think these two songs have some of the greatest potential out of any tracks here, as the shortcomings of these tracks are partially made up for with their great lyrics, their straightforward delivery, their sense of humor, the dark tone of the track. And I guess there are a few tunes on this album I don't really care for at all, like Are You Really Gonna Move to the South? I do enjoy the personal story that this track delivers, but the chord progression, the vocal melody just seems really meandering and uninteresting, sort of like Marissa sacrificed the melody of the track so that she could kind of tell this story. The song Interlocking I found to have a similarly meandering quality as well, even though I do enjoy the drama in her voice. Overall, I thought this was a pretty enjoyable singer-songwriter album. For sure, Nadler's simple songwriting style and chilly vocal delivery, it's not going to be for everyone, but I happen to like it. I think it's pretty compelling. I think it's pretty beautiful. I think the simpler approach she takes on this album mostly pans out. Also, again, liking the gothic direction she's heading in on this one a little bit too. I'm feeling a light to decent 7 on this one. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe, and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up, or the link to subscribe to the channel. Marissa Nadler, for my crimes, forever.